welcome to my mid-month wrap-up. My name is Edshara, and today I have 7 books to share with you guys. And the first book is the ebook that I checked out, and it is The Girl with 7 Names, Escape from North Korea by Ms. Lee. And this one follows her life before and after she defects from North Korea. And I thought this book was so interesting and so informational. You learned so much about the North Korean regime and how they enforce the rules and what some of the rules and regulations are. The rules go from, how they can dress to how the women can wear their hair to how and when they are allowed to travel. You learn that basically the only people you can trust are the people within your own family. There is a lot going on in this book, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very eye-opening. If you're not interested in reading the book, I do know that she has a TED Talk here on YouTube that talks about a lot of the things that she mentions in the book. And there are also some other interviews that she has done that are also available here on YouTube. So this is one that I would highly recommend. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And the next book is one that I have talked about quite a bit here over the past couple of weeks, but I didn't actually get around to reading it, and that is The Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck by Bethany Turner. And it just so happened that I wasn't in the mood to read it this month. It may be something that I try to revisit in the future, but for now I'm just going to return it to the library. And next up is Dear Martin by Nick Stone, and this is one that I went into it just crossing my fingers that I would enjoy it. And the first couple of chapters were a little bit hard just because she uses play style dialogue, and I'm not sure if that's the proper terminology for it, but it's basically the character's name and then what they say and then the next character's name and what they say, and kind of alternating throughout the conversation. I personally do not like that. Now, she does not use that throughout the entire book. She kind of switches between that and just including the dialogue and the conversations in paragraph form like most books. But it took me a little bit to kind of settle into the book just because I don't like that style of writing. But then once I did, I found this to be so profound and so moving. And in comparison to The Hate U Give, even though I gave both of the books, even though I gave The Hate U Give and this book 5 stars, I would probably give the edge to Dear Martin, just because I felt like I related a lot more to what Nick Stone was talking about in this one, especially from an emotional standpoint. I really liked how Justice was, at sometimes a bit immature and very much like a teenager, but then at the same time he was able to kind of have some very mature thoughts. And there was specifically one instance where he kind of put 2 and 2 together, and his thought process was, okay, maybe this happened because this person saw this happen. And so you could see kind of his compassion showing, and I really enjoyed that because it was a situation where he didn't necessarily need to have compassion, but he was trying to find it. This one is definitely pulled directly from the headlines, so it did take some time to read, even though it is a pretty short book, just because I had to walk away sometimes. I had to put it down and collect myself before I could continue. But again, I would definitely recommend this. This is definitely a book that I want to add to my collection, and I can't wait to read more by Nick Stone. Then I have Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, and this is another one that was so good. It was so informational. At the time that I checked this book out from the library, I did not think that my library had the audiobook, and it turns out they didn't. So I signed up for a free trial of Audible just so I could get the audiobook, and I'm very glad that I did. It was a credit well used, because the book is good, but listening to Trevor's narration makes it even better. The way that he tells the jokes make them funnier than I think it would if you just kind of read them yourself. You learn a lot about South Africa in this book. You learn a lot about apartheid in this book, as well as obviously learning a lot about Trevor and his life growing up, and kind of how he had to figure out, you know, what he was going to identify as, white or black, and, you know, how he was accepted and how he wasn't accepted in certain places. And so I found this to be so informational. It was so good. I would highly recommend the audiobook if you can get your hands on it. I definitely want to own a physical copy of this book, just because I can definitely see myself rereading this in the future, because it was that good. And then I read March Book 1 and March Book 2, both by Congressman John Lewis and co-written by Andrew Aiden, with illustrations by Nate Powell. And March Book 1 I gave 4 stars, and March Book 2 I gave 5 stars. Now, I gave Book 1 4 stars just because I was having a bit of trouble with sort of the transitions between the present and the past. I thought they were a bit abrupt, and that could just be a graphic novel thing, and I'm still new to graphic novels, so that may just be something that I need to adjust to. I'm not sure. But I did learn a lot about things that I either knew a little bit about, or, you know, things that perhaps I had never heard of. So this was very informational, and I really enjoyed it. Then March Book 2 I gave 5 stars, like I said already. But this one was good. This one had a lot more information. This was a lot more behind the scenes, I think. I really enjoyed reading about Congressman Lewis's interactions with President Kennedy, as well as his interactions with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So this one was also like Dear Martin. I found myself having to kind of step away from it because it was very intense. I would definitely recommend both of these, but even with Dear Martin, I would definitely say take your time, just because there's a lot of very hard information in them, but I think it's important that we know our history. And the last book that I have is Year One by Nora Roberts, and this is book 1 in the Chronicles of the One series. And I think if you like Nora Roberts and her writing style, you will enjoy this book. But I will say I do think that Nora Roberts is at times a bit cheesy and a bit over dramatic, but I personally really enjoy her books. Just about every book of hers that I have read, I have loved. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. If I had been petty, I probably would have given it 3, just because there was a lot going on in the end that I didn't particularly care for. But I was immediately, you know, invested in these characters, in their lives, in their well-being. I was immediately invested in the story. I wanted to keep reading. I wanted to see how it would all end. There were definitely some parts where I was kind of on the edge of my seat, crossing my fingers, but I really enjoyed the book. I really liked kind of the mix of non-magical and magical beings. Overall, I felt like this was a pretty solid story. I definitely want to continue the series. The next book doesn't come out until December of this year, but I'm all for it. This is it for today's wrap up. I cannot wait to kind of finish some of the other books that I'm reading now so I can share those with you guys, but that'll be at the end of the month. But I do appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. Let me know what you think of some of these books in the comments down below. And I know you guys know it. No spoilers, just for those who may have not read these books already. And until next time, guys, God bless. Bye. The time had passed. I missed the window.